Jerrod, very excited to have you with us. I just want to ask you to briefly introduce yourself and let us know about you, what you're doing at Yubico, and you as a Chief Solution Architect.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my role in Yubico, my name is Jerrod Chong, and I've been at the company for more than 5 years. And one of the things that I've been sort of evolving at the company is to sort of become more, advocating for things that make sense to help open standards. So solutions at Yubico means a lot of different things to a lot of people. But essentially, we at Yubico make a product. Our flagship product is a YubiKey. But part of that making of the YubiKey is to include as many things as we deem as open as possible, so that it can connect to and solve many of the problems for authentication. So when we talk about solutions, we're talking about working with really very big companies like Google and Microsoft to enable such solutions to come to market. We believe that the journey should be part of everyone's journey to be strong, to make strong authentication available for everyone. So our fundamental mission is very simple. Sina Aronsvard, our CEO, set out a mission to make strong authentication easily and available for everyone. And that means you have to really work with everyone in order to foresee and fulfill this mission. And my job as the Chief Solutions Officer is to make sure that the teams are working towards and driving towards this goal, whether it's helping an enterprise solve a authentication problem or an identity problem, or also end users trying to protect themselves online. But more importantly, actually, one of the fundamental mission that we have as well is to help sort of the communities that can't really help themselves. We talk about people in enterprise, but there are a lot of people that are, say, journalists that can't really take their resources to make this available. So we want to make sure the technology is available to those people as well. People under attacks in certain regions of the world, people who don't really understand authentication. So we need to make this really available for them, and we spend quite a bit of time making sure we serve those communities as well.
Yeah. First, I just want to repeat how excited I am to speak with you. There are not a lot of us. We are both from Singapore, living in United States.
That's right.
And we both pursue our passion. We look into innovation. You, in particular, I was very impressed at how passionate you are about identity and the larger impact of what identity means, not just as a technology, but what it means to society. Would you want to talk a bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah? I've actually stumbled upon sort of this journey for open standards sort of indirectly. So I think I was very passionate about the technology itself. But I think most people think of Yubico as sort of a hardware device vendor. But when we really start to peel the layers behind what we do, we are actually the authors of many of these critical works in the community, particularly for open standards. And it's not just FIDO, which we have been associated with, but there are other areas that we've also been participating heavily in terms of open source communities and open standards as well. I personally sort of was sucked in, just being part of the team. But I found it to be very rewarding to have a greater mission. So I think people today feel like people want a career, and obviously they want to evolve their careers to learn things and sort of like grow, both financially and obviously expertise. But I think when you come across a crossroads between a company that's not just the main objective of the company, just to be profitable or to grow the business, but to have a wider awareness of society in general, I think that plays a very heartwarming sort of emotional feeling. You connect with the work that was started. So I to be honest, I was sucked in, but as I sort of peel back the layers, I became more and more passionate because I think this is something that affects all of us. And we think that technology needs to help the people, but I think if you think about it the other way around, it's a lot of times the technology has been sort of helping the people who have the resources or the capital to use the technology. And so I think open standards sort of level the playing field, because I think technology should work for everyone, not just for some. And I think part of the work that we've done with the new web authentication standard is that's exactly the type of visibility and adoption and impact we need in the world. Because just imagine, like, it was people solving things for financial institutions since we're in New York, which is great. But we also need to take care of the people who are doing, say, micropayments in some countries that don't have this type of infrastructure. And they depend on sort of technologies that we created in the sort of the modern world, and it trickles down to them. And if they are still constantly being, I would say, attacked because of older technologies, then we haven't really solved the problem for the world. And I think that's very passionate for me. That shows a different dimension of sort of working for a company and sort of growing the company, evangelizing for things that most people just think it's, I don't know, free work. I wouldn't consider free work, but it's sort of the work that most people are not thinking about it daily.
It's so interesting that when you talk about open standard, how passionate you are about like working through the standards. What drives you in doing all this? Because it's kind of a long, tedious, and sometimes many opinions, many
Yes.
delays, and right. And so how would you? What drives you to? What is the driving motivation that makes you work on
Open
this?
standards? Yeah. It is tough work. I'll be honest. We've spent for a small company like ours, which is less than 200 people, we spend a fair bit of resources trying to get this thing going. But I think part of the journey is to find key partners that really identify with our sort of goals and our mission. I think we're very fortunate in the early days to work with Google and more recently with Microsoft. And if you think about why we do it, ultimately, obviously there's a business side to the equation, but more importantly, I think, if not us, who, right? I mean, that's, most people are like, well, I don't want to be part of the open standard because it takes a long time, the journey is very long, I don't see the end result of it. But if everybody thought like that, we're not going to move the needle. I have a very interesting story. So one of the things that Stina talks about was about back when Volvo as a car company created the 3-point seatbelt. That was a proprietary technology. And so the engineer was really happy that he created this technology and said, this is going to save people's lives. Now, at that point in time, there were all these other competitors that came to the market about protecting themselves when you drive a car. But there was no one technology that was a winner. So this I forgot the engineer's name, but when he created this 3-point seatbelt technology, he was like, this needs to be for the world. And that's why you see 3-point seatbelts in the world today. Mm-hmm. So we just think that our stuff is the best and we protect our own business. And you don't see the long tail, but we are part of one society that benefits everyone. Internet really is part of everyone's lives today, modern life. And whether you're in developing countries or developed countries, internet's here to stay. It's not going to go away. And so we don't evolve the conversation, how do we help the world move into a better state? Because internet has as much, there's a lot of bad things that happen, but there's a lot of good things that happen. Collaboration at scale is what we have created. This is our generation. Internet has brought many people together. So what we need to do is to, when we solve something big for everyone, we need to share it and evolve it. And open standards is the only way. You wouldn't imagine, for example, we talk about web and security. You wouldn't say that I'm not going to use the little lock icon, right? The TLS security, right? Within your application. It's just there available. So we need to think the same way for how we evolve security on the web, and obviously, we hope that we contribute a small part, but a big, impactful part to the world.
As a thought leader for identity security and authentication, what advice would you give to aspiring architects and engineers?
I mean, the advice is very simple. I think we need to embrace the innovation that's happening. I think we are constantly trapped in this model where we believe that what we have is good enough, or there doesn't need to be a collaboration. And to some extent, yes, I can understand people want to create their own environments and solutions and products, but there's a greater need to really work together.
Yes.
I can think that if you look at the attack scenarios from a security perspective, the attackers are working much more collaborative than the defenders or the good guys, and we need to change that, right?
Yes.
So, and the only way we can move forward is to sort of put away some of our agenda as companies and collaborate. Every competitive company that produces a security product at some level are actually the good guys, right? Mm-hmm. But yet we treat each other like, the nemesis. We need to change that. I think that's the fundamental disconnect in the security side, and we hope that sort of open standards can bring more people together rather than split more people apart. If everybody created their proprietary solutions and think that their solution is the best way, like, nobody wins. So my one advice is to collaborate, learn about the things that we've been doing to bring people together and bring technologies together, and honestly start implementing it.
Jerrod, thank you for your thought leadership. And everyone, we are at SymposiumX, and we are going to grab a YubiKey right now. All right, join me at SymposiumX.